The 2CV is perhaps Citroën's most iconic and legendary model, and understandably replacing it took the French firm a long time to get its head around. For the 1980s, its attempt at replacing the 2CV was this, the AX. So, how did it fare, and is it worthy of standing in the same shoes as the 2CV? Let's take this one for a drive and find out. Replacing the 2CV had been a subject that had occupied some of Citroën's top brass for years, and sadly, over various attempts through the decades, not been entirely successful. The Diane had been more like a facelifted 2CV, and it had been seen as such, and the Visa, good though it was and a little bit more modern, was also far too basic and really couldn't compete in the Super Mini class. Now, behind the scenes, for around 6 years in fact, Citroën had been conducting a project known as Eco 2000, developing aerodynamic, fuel-efficient cars, hopefully class-leading in terms of their miles per gallon. Now, that all culminated in 1986's AX, a small car designed to compete in the Super Mini class with the likes of the Metro and the Fiesta, with a coefficient of drag of 0.31. This tiny car was one of the most aerodynamic cars on the market of any class at the time, yet that aerodynamic styling also provided it with quite a charming look. It doesn't look anything like your typical Citroën. Certainly this is no DS or 2CV, but it's a really sweet looking thing, isn't it? With that bright little face and a few cute little details. It's a charming looking thing in its simplicity. And what's more, its aerodynamic design meant it was economical. At a constant 56 miles an hour, the 1 litre AX could claim to do 70 miles to the gallon on the motorway. That's incredible. Even by today's standards, there are some hybrids that can't do that. And this quest for economy kept going with the AX. In 1989, a 1.4 diesel example achieved 100 miles to the gallon, driving from Dover to Barcelona. But there isn't a car on the market today that can even get close to the kind of economy that a diesel AX could. One of the ways it achieved that incredible fuel economy was through lightweight, because yes, it's small, and a number of panels on the AX were plastic, not just for corrosion resistance, but for lightweight, to the point where a base spec AX weighed in at 640 kilos. I think I nearly weigh that much. And when they did use metal in the construction, it was cleverly applied. There are varying thicknesses of metal throughout the body shell, so it's only as thick in certain places as it needs to be to make the car as rigid as necessary and as safe as necessary. If it doesn't need to be thick, it isn't. And that's why some of the doors on this particular example do sound a bit like 2 tins of beans slamming into each other, because they probably use old tins of beans to make them. And as a result of all this lightness, that also means it's got a few French quirks to the interior, shall we say. Yes, it's nicely laid out, I've got a good amount of space, and you would get 4 people in this car with ease, but also bare painted metal on the doors, minimal door cards, and a lot of very thin and quite rattly French plastic. The likes of the Fiesta do look quite refined by comparison. But that said, it gets the job done. It's still a functional interior, looks perfectly smart, and there's the odd little quirk here and there, like your typical Citroën 2-spoke steering wheel, just enough to show you that this is something different to the crowd. Despite sounding and feeling a little bit thin and flimsy, actually it does last the years. This example we're in today has done nearly 120,000 miles, and yet everything works, it all still fits fine. So while it might not be the most high quality product in the world, it's clearly built to last. The flip side of all this lightweight and basicness and flimsiness is that the AX is also a hoot to drive. It's got fully independent suspension, which helps with handling, and it's also long travel in that typical French fashion to deal with rutted French back roads. And actually, with that suspension and its lightweight, it's great fun to chuck around. We've only got a little 1 litre engine here with a 4-speed gearbox. It doesn't get more basic of an AX, but it is a good fun little car. The steering's light and really responsive, even though it's not power assisted. Brakes are really good actually. Of course there's no weight to pull up, but they are confidence inspiring, and when you fling it into a bend, it does grip on really well actually. You would never believe that such a long travel suspended car with such skinny little tyres would grip on so well, but actually the AX is a hoot to chuck around. And yet, in typical small French car fashion, I'm still only doing 40 miles an hour doing this. It's a 1 litre engine with 50 odd horsepower, so no, you're not pulling the skin off a rice pudding, and no, you're not going to sit in the outside lane of the M40, but on a little back road like this, you're going to have a great time, just like in a 2CV. Not only is the AX fun to drive, but it's so comfortable. Not only have you got these big, soft, squidgy seats in proper French fashion, but the way it soaks up the bumps is incredible. Bit of a bump here. No idea. Didn't even know it was there. The trim knew more about that than I did. It's a great blend of fun and comfort, this. Just like a small French car should be. And don't go thinking that 4 speeds and 1 litre and those soft, thin tyres mean that this car can't do big distances. We're borrowing this AX from the guys at Space Saver Cars who drove it all the way to France last year, and there's proof. Small cars are just as capable of doing big distances as bigger ones. And in many ways, they make the journey more memorable because you're more inclined to throw around and have a bit of fun with it. It's great, this, and all the little quirks to it. Even things like, on this base spec example, not having a rev counter, but a massive clock so you can time your 0 to 60s. It's great. Oh, nearly revved it to 3:15 there. And I'm not the only one who was impressed by the AX. The press loved its smart styling and its incredible fuel economy and its great blend of ride and handling. And as a result, Citroën sold 2.56 million of these cars. And they continued to evolve it over time with a facelifted version. Then, of course, the sporty AX GT and then GTI that put it in the hot hatch segment as well. This was a small car, good and proper, but with all those Citroën quirks and eccentricities to it that made it endearing, that made it different, that made it such a massive success. Even today, if you go to rural parts of Europe, there's a good chance you'll still find a battered old Citroën AX carting things around a vineyard or something. It's also quite undervalued. You could pick up one of these cars for 3 figures still, and for that money, I'm not sure there are many cars of this kind of age that will put such a smile on your face and be so easy and cheap to run. This is a cracking little car, and if you're looking to dip your toes into the world of classics and you fancy something easy and approachable for your first time out, what a great choice. I'd have this over a Fiesta or a Polo any day of the week. Actually, when you sit back and look, you could make the argument for the AX being the more up-to-date, more modern 2CV. It's basic, it's bare bones, it's utterly functional with a nice big boot and space for 4 and great ride comfort and incredible fuel economy. It's simple to work on, but it's also very definitely something different. It's not a Polo or a Fiesta or a Metro. It stands out from the crowd, but for all the right reasons. But come the 80s, when Citroën couldn't trade on status of just being weird and it had to be properly good as well, it was good enough to win over the general public. For years and years, Citroën have been talking about bringing the 2CV back, and rumours have started to surface again about a new electric version. But as it turns out, Citroën, if you wanted a new 2CV, you've already got one. What do you think? Do you like the Citroën AX? Is it worthy of that small Citroën lineage? Would you have one over any of its super mini rivals from the 80s? I know an AX GT would sit nicely on my driveway. Why don't you comment down below on that? Make sure to like this video, subscribe to Classics World for 2 new videos and a podcast every single week, and do go and check out the videos from the guys at Space Saver Cars, including some adventures with this very AX. But until then, I'm going to just while away the hours on this winding country lane. See you soon.
Oh my god, it's a Robin pickup.
It's a pickup as well.
It's a pickup.
No way.
It is a pickup, isn't it? Yeah,
It is. Good man.